Hey, this is Chris, and in this video I'm going to talk about gluconeogenesis. By following a carnivore diet, that's going to work best because you can produce all the glucose you need from gluconeogenesis. What is gluconeogenesis? Okay, well, it's a biochemical process. Gluco for glucose, and then neo for new, and then genesis for production. So the production of new glucose molecules, okay, from non-glucose precursors that your body does naturally, whether you eat carbohydrates or not. And some of the things that you make these glucose from is stuff like lactate, glycerol as well, and also protein, like the amino acids, protein. It's primarily in the liver, but can also happen in the small intestine, in the kidneys. So mainly the liver, and then a little bit lesser of an extent the kidneys, and then to a lesser extent to that is small intestine and the brain. And some people say, oh, stressful though. But first off, you have to understand that your body does this naturally. Why do you think that your body produces these new glucose molecules no matter what you eat? Like, whether you eat a high carb diet or a low carb diet, why does your body produce this? Your body produces new glucose molecules either way. Your body doesn't produce new protein molecules either way, or new fat molecules either way. It only produces carbohydrates because you don't need carbohydrates. There's no essential carbohydrates. There's essential fatty acids and essential amino acids. There's no essential carbohydrates. Just like there's no essential alcohol. Shouldn't even really be a macronutrient. It's a macronutrient because your body makes it, but not one that you need to exogenously eat. It's an endogenous process. Through gluconeogenesis, you produce all the glucose you need whilst keeping your blood sugar levels stable. So you produce all the glucose you need while not spiking your blood sugar levels, not having high blood sugar levels. So this is the study that we looked at before, okay? To evaluate the effect of dietary carbohydrate content on post-absorptive glucose metabolism, we quantified gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis right after 11 days. Very low carbohydrate, 2%, resulted in a 14% higher rate of gluconeogenesis compared to the control group. The control group was a 44% group. That served as a baseline. Then the high carbohydrate group, okay, the 85% showed no significant difference in gluconeogenesis compared to the control group. So there's no significant difference between the 44% carbohydrate group and 85%. And there's a 14% between the 44% and the 2%. So even between the 85% and the 2% group, there was only like less than 15% difference. And it's not a very stressful event because even though your cortisol might rise a bit, it goes straight back down. It's only if it's chronically high cortisol that's a problem. But it's not like, it shouldn't even be called really a stress hormone, cortisol. It's not really a stress hormone. Your body has cortisol for a reason. But just because you see a bit of a quick increase, because it's involved in like the gluconeogenic pathways, like the enzymes, should I say, because it's involved in these enzymes. But once it's served that function, then gluconeogenesis goes back down to baseline, and you don't know. So people like you might see in a keto diet or carnivore diet, you might notice that they have an increase in cortisol, but then it goes back down once it's served that pathway, okay? Because there's 3 enzymes in the production of gluconeogenesis. So when it serves that function, then cortisol goes back down. Even if you're sleeping, when you wake up, your cortisol is going to raise a bit. So is waking up bad? No. I think what people need to understand is the difference between distress and stress. Okay, we all have stress in our life or we'll be dead. So if you were to wake up, your cortisol will raise a little bit, for example, but you're not going to say waking up is bad. So on a low carb diet, you might see, such as a carnivore diet, you'd see your cortisol raising a little bit. But then what they noticed in studies, I'm going to show you one here, that actually went down then, okay, after that, and actually was similar. So if you look at this, okay, low carbohydrate diets and men's cortisol and testosterone, there's 309 participants. So after the adaptation, after they were more adapted to it, actually went down, the cortisol. So it's only if it's chronically high that's a problem, cortisol. So long term, right, 3+ weeks, the low-carb dieters had no consistent effect on resting cortisol, suggesting it returns a baseline after the initial period. The other thing is people say, oh, gluconeogenesis uses up more ATP, adenosine triphosphate. That's the energy currency of the cell. And so it's very important. And they say that that gluconeogenesis uses up more ATP. But through beta oxidation, by you using fat as the fuel source, then it evens itself out. This is roughly 3 to 4 times more ATP from one fatty acid molecule than a glucose molecule, making it a far more denser and more efficient fuel source. Okay, making fat more efficient fuel source compared to glucose. Our efficiency for gluconeogenesis is very high, because once you eat an adequate amount of fat and protein, then you don't need any carbohydrates, and your body will produce all that glucose from these non-glucose precursors. And one last thing before I go, if you want a free coaching call with me, DM me the word READY, READY, on Instagram at HealthierNowChris. We can have a free coaching call together and see where you're at and try to help you get to the next stage. So if you're struggling to lose weight, or feeling tired all the time, or some problem that you're having, addiction to certain foods that you know you shouldn't eat, then we can have a free call. So if you want more of this content, then make sure to like, share, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.